Hi, I'm Steve Clemons. I direct the foreign policy programs at the New America Foundation and write the blog, The Washington Note. I'm here with Colonel Lawrence Wilkerson, who chairs our U.S.-Cuba Policy Initiative here and also writes quite frequently at thehavananote.com. Larry, yesterday Barack Obama announced lifting restrictions on travel and remittances between Cuban-Americans and their families in Cuba, made some changes in telecommunications rules of deal-making with Cuban companies, and lifted humanitarian relief. What's your reaction to the Obama plan?
Well, my initial reaction is to be happy that something is moving. However, I have to immediately qualify that by saying that I don't think it's much movement at all. And in fact, it bears the trappings or the disguise of bad things. For example, do we restrict only Polish Americans to traveling to Poland?
We didn't open Vietnam by letting Vietnamese
Right.
Americans, run on the front wave of that, did we?
This is like Cuban Americans, you're a special class. You get to travel and everyone else doesn't. This is unconstitutional in my view, so it should have been a blanket.
And to their credit,
travel.
I mean, the Obama administration inherited the Helms-Burton Act and inherited lots of rules and restrictions, and so within the embargo, which as I understand it needs congressional action to move, were you surprised that Obama's people, his spokesman and his Latin American advisor, did not express discomfort with creating benefits for one class of Americans and excluding other Americans from that deal?
Well, there's a website right now that has about 6 or 7 bullets whereby they pronounce on U.S.-Cuba policy as it has been updated, if you will. And one of the bullets is no Latin Americanist in the White House. That's a very dramatic bullet in my view. There is no Latin Americanist in the White House, and until there is a Latin Americanist in the White House, President Obama's not going to get the best advice about Latin America.
You were once quoted one time in GQ magazine, and I'd rather not put the words in your mouth, but this, I believe, was when you were serving as Chief of Staff in the Department of State under General Colin Powell. You made a comment that was supposed to be off the record. It got on, but would you like to share it with us?
Well, I said something to the effect of U.S.-Cuba policy is the stupidest policy on the face of the earth.
And how would you say, do you think we remain in that place, or do you think that there has been enough movement in the Obama plan that you would revise that statement?
We need more movement. It's still a stupid policy. It's a failed policy. It's an abject failure. It's a half century of failure, but it's particularly dramatic failure since the end of the Cold War, because there's absolutely no justification for it anymore. And this tit for tat, this step by step, this incremental, I'll do this if the Congress will do that, if the Congress will do that, I'll do more, if I'll do more, the Congress will do more, might not cut it anymore. In many respects, the political process in this country in terms of rationalizing foreign policy vis-a-vis domestic interests, take Israel, take Cuba, whatever you want that's domestically dominated, has become a dysfunctional process and even a dangerous process, and we need to get out of it.
I think we need to get out of it too, and I'm probably a bit more optimistic because I think Dennis McDonough, I admire Dennis McDonough, who's the President's principal, I think, background advisor on strategy, and I know that he doesn't have much patience for this embargo. But finally, last question, geostrategically, does Cuba matter more to us than just being Cuba? In other words, it's 11 million people, an island 90 miles off our shore. Does what we do with Cuba now have greater echo effect geostrategically in other parts of the world, or can this be boxed off as sort of a small deal that doesn't have that much effect?
I think it does have enormous importance. Even Thomas Jefferson and John Adams, with a covetous eye towards the island, of course, saw its strategic importance in terms of protecting the Gulf. We may not be that kind of shipping nation that we used to be, where that kind of strategic connotation was relevant, but it's still extremely important. I think the new book by Lars Schultz down at the University of North Carolina, that infernal little republic, Cuba, it's a perfect summary of why we really don't like that island. It's because that island has extended the middle finger to us for 50 years or longer and won't obey our rule, and so we're arrogant, we're hubristic, and we're absolutely irrational about the way we deal with it. But because of that, we are also missing a golden opportunity to revise and polish and make better our policy towards the hemisphere in general, and that's one of the biggest things that I see is the Cuba deficit. We simply have not had a good American foreign policy vis-a-vis Latin America since the good neighbor policy of FDR.
Well, Colonel Wilkerson, thank you very much for sharing your views today. Now we've got a conference due, but thanks for being here.
Sure.